How shall I stand before thee but in silence? I will keep silence before thee. Be still and know that I am God. Let us begin there, in the holy hush, where the wind of words dies down and the sea within grows calm, for the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. We do not enter this silence to escape, we enter to behold. We do not come to plead, we come to listen. The kingdom of God is not on the horizon of the world's noise. The kingdom of God is within you. And in that withinness, in that secret chamber, the presence and the power are felt. Not discussed, not argued, not painted with the imagination, felt. It is out of the silence that the presence and the power of God come. It is out of the silence that the oil flows, the lamp burns, the manna appears, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Therefore we lay down might, and we lay down mental power. We lay down the busy hands of self-improvement and the louder hands of self-condemnation. We do not rush God, we receive God. God must be felt. God must be realized. God must become an experience. An experience, friends, blossoms only in quiet earth. Turn then to the inner ear, the ear that hears what no sound carries. It is just beyond the ordinary hearing, as if a whisper waited at the edge of your listening. Keep this ear open. Let thoughts rise and fall as seabirds. Do not chase them. Let them wheel and vanish. Beneath the flutter, there is the slow, sure tide. In that beneathness, listen. After the fire, a still small voice. When you find yourself tempted to push, to help, to form the answer, stop. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Say it without lips, say it without effort, and then let the saying dissolve into the hearing. Let our intention be simple and pure. We do not come with bags of needs at the door of the chapel. We come with willingness to be still. Not to get, but to behold. Not to persuade God to come to us, but to awaken where God already is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it the invisible. The name is not the power. The silence is the door. The listening is the turning of the handle. Enter now. Take this first minute and lay it upon the altar of quiet. We are not fixing anything. We are not improving anything. We are consenting to presence. He that dwelleth now in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Let that word abide sink beneath the mind's surface. Listen. Listen until the edges soften, until the heart realizes it is being kept. In that keeping, without strain, the work begins unseen, unheard, yet inevitable. Now, having entered the hush, let us look plainly at what has kept us turning outside that hush. There is a tyranny that wears a pious robe, the tyranny of working on ourselves. I have watched it in churches and classrooms, in study groups and solitary rooms, the notebooks filled with techniques, the strings of affirmations, the ceaseless self-treatments repeated like a drumbeat against the door of heaven. We massage the mind. We polish the ego. We stretch and strain as if the infinite could be coaxed by our calisthenics. And yet, friends, who remains at the center of all that choreography? I. My thought, my plan, my program, my progress chart. It is the same I that has grown weary under every other burden, simply trading a worldly treadmill for a spiritual one. By their fruits ye shall know them. Why is there so much talk of God, so much talking about prayer, about the Christ, the Tao, Nirvana, the Father, Mother Divine, and so little that endures as peace, as quiet supply, as love that does not have to be pushed and pulled? Why isn't it true in the market, in the kitchen, in the hospital bed at 2 in the morning? because methods, when they revolve around the self, cannot yield what only God gives. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, talking about the sun will not warm the room, discussing the ocean's depth will not wet the shore. And so talking about God without the silence in which God is realized does not bring the fruits of God. Listen to the prophet. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Not by physical might, not by mental power, hear that, nor by metaphysical cleverness, nor by verbal gymnastics, but by my Spirit. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. We have tried to build with blueprints of affirmation. We have tried to heal with hammers of denial. For a morning, perhaps, the scaffolding holds. By evening, the wind reveals what it has always been, vain labor at the center called me. The Master did not say, I perform the works by my concentration. He said, the Father within me, he doeth the works. Paul did not announce, I have perfected myself by regimen. He breathed, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. If you feel tired of trying, do not despair. That fatigue is not failure. It is the holy symptom that the false center has worn itself out. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest does not mean idleness. It means ceasing from our own works, ceasing from self as Savior, so that grace may begin to be Savior. The mind that chants from morning to night and yet trembles at the phone call has not yet yielded. The heart that keeps score of practices and yet finds resentment flowering at the small slight has not yet tasted the presence. And I say this not to condemn, for I have lived it. I have filled pages with affirmations and found the page warm and the soul cold. Only when the pen fell, when the lips fell still, when the inner ear turned, did the oil begin to flow of itself, unlabored. The tyranny of spiritual self-improvement is subtle because it flatters us. It promises that with enough polish, the image will shine like God. But friends, image is image. The mirror shines only when the sun is upon it. Our work, if we dare call it that, is not to brighten the glass. It is to turn it to the light. Then, without might, without personal power, the Spirit performs the works, and the fruits appear as quietly as dawn. Now comes the turning. Not more effort, but less of you. Not another brace on the mind, but the unclenching of the heart. Hear the word. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If that is true, and it is truth, then what is our part? Not to push outcomes, not to fashion a rescue with thought tools, not to work on ourselves as if we were projects, but to stop, to drop the entire matter into the quiet and to listen until the inner assurance dawns, until you can say, not as theory, but as felt fact, the Father within me, he doeth the works. Stop your self-treatment. Take the worry, the symptom, the lack, the tangled relationship, and set it down in the invisible before you. Do not decorate it with prayers. Do not argue with it. Do not diagnose it. Lay it down and keep silence before God. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. This stillness is not passivity, it is consent. It is the holy yes by which we acknowledge that Christ within is the only physician, the only law, the only life acting. Our part is not performance, but presence, not engineering, but inner hearing, not managing, but yielding. Listen, keep this inner ear open, just beyond the ordinary hearing, as if a breath is waiting to become a word. Let the mind's foam subside. Do not chase it. Let it fall back into the sea. In that sea, wait. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You are not trying to make anything happen. You are consenting to what is already true in God to announce itself in you. When a warmth comes, or a lightness, or a sense of release, that is the Christ performing the work. If no sensation comes, but a deep peace settles, that too is the Christ. Do not measure the moment, receive it. Understand the agency. The Christ performs all things for us. The Spirit feeds the multitude. The Spirit opens prisons. The Spirit leads beside still waters. We do not command spirit. We make our contact with the infinite invisible, and in that contact the law of being fulfills itself. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Not my cleverness, but the presence. Not my outline, but the will that is love. And here is the promise that never fails. The deeper the silence, the more tangible the presence. The more tangible the presence, the more inevitable the harmonies that follow. As the dawn does not argue with the night but appears by law, so grace does not argue with a problem but dissolves it by being itself. Therefore, do not return to fixing. Return to listening. Return to the holy hush until oneness is felt, and then rise quietly, for the work is already underway. Beloved, hear this as spiritual fact. You are not outside trying to get in. In Him we live and move and have our being. You already live in God. You already breathe the life of God. You already are maintained by the law of God. As a matter of truth, oneness is not a prize to be won, but a reality to be realized. The difference between a life of strain and a life of grace is not that God finally comes. It is that we finally awaken. When this becomes conscious, felt, known, tasted, the whole axis of experience turns. You cease being a seeker and become a witness. You stop reaching out and begin abiding. Abide in me, and I in you, for without me ye can do nothing. To abide is not to cling, it is to rest in what already is and to let its life circulate as your life. What then is prayer? Not sending words to a distant throne, not instructing a reluctant power, not bargaining with heaven to visit earth. Prayer is recognition. Prayer is the holy acknowledgement in silence that the life that formed you lives you now, that the mind that knows all is your mind now, that the love that sustains worlds is your very heart now. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The closet is not a room. It is an interior hearing where you set the world down and consent to the Father within. The reward is not a coin tossed from the sky. It is the quiet ordering of your affairs by the law of being, seen openly, secretly wrought. Do not stumble over names. Emmanuel, the Christ within, the Tao that cannot be told, Buddha nature bright as morning, the Atman of Shankara, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, one reality, one life, one mind. The forms are many, the essence is one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. When the word Christ is spoken here, let it mean the light in you, the presence announcing itself as your very life. When Tao is named, let it be the way of effortless alignment that carries leaf and star without strain. When Buddha is remembered, let it be the awakening of what has always been true. There are not many rivers to many seas. There is one ocean rising in many estuaries, and you stand already in its tide. And worship, the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, not in this mountain nor in that city, not in forms alone, not in syllables alone, not in gestures alone, but in spirit, in conscious oneness, and in truth, the realized fact that God is the life of you. Words can point, forms can prepare, but worship begins when you feel the hush quicken, when within you whispers, I and my Father are one. Then action changes its source, not compulsion. but guidance, not anxiety, but assurance, not pushing, but being carried. One with God is a majority. When that is felt, you do not shout it, you walk it. Peace begins to precede you. Supply begins to meet you without your chase. Love begins to flow where you once argued. This is not magic, it is order. It is the kingdom within becoming operative as your daily life, because you have ceased asking the sun to rise and turned your face to its already present light. As oneness becomes more than a phrase and begins to be a felt fact, you will notice that the parade of appearances does not seek your permission to pass by. Sin struts, disease groans, lack knocks, each wearing the mask of urgency, each whispering, fight me, fix me, fear me. Friends, hear this in the quiet. These are phenomena without divine substance. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Where, then, is sin as a cause? Where is disease as a law? Where is lack as a principle? They are not in God, and if they are not in God, they are not in truth. They are shadows cast by no object, sounds with no source, pictures on a screen when the projector has been turned off. If you rush the screen with a sword, you stab the cloth, the picture remains untroubled until the light is changed. So with appearances, not to be battled, but to be outshone. Resist not evil, said the Master, not because we are to be doormats for discord, but because resistance is recognition, and recognition hands error a reality it never had. Put up again thy sword into his place, for steel cannot sever a dream. Our stance is not combat, but beholding. We refuse to grant appearance a mind, a place, a law, a substance. We refuse to argue with it, for argument acknowledges an opponent. We behold God where the claim shouts for center stage. We look straight through the clamor to the invisible, and we wait until the hush announces, I am. I watched it in those early days when a faithful soul kept what she called a healing basket. When the phone rang with a diagnosis or a story of lack, she would write a name on a slip and, in full view of her own mind, drop it into that basket, and then she would say quietly, there isn't any such patient. I'll tell you what's in that basket. God. Then she closed her eyes, not to shut the world out, but to let the light in. And she listened until the presence was felt. That was the treatment. No battle, no push, just beholding. And how often did the outer phone call change to match the inner word? Why? Because one with God is a majority, and in the light of one mind, error, having no mind of its own, cannot stand as cause. God is the only mind. There are not two, one sick and one well, one sinful and one holy, wrestling for your fate. There is one, and you individually exist as an activity of that one. Whatever appears as sin, disease, and lack exists only as appearance, without law to maintain it, without cause to feed it, without substance to endure. When we fight it, we knit it to our consciousness. When we behold God, we dissolve the seeming knot in the realization that there is no second power. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Say it as recognition, not petition. Say it until the want loses its voice. So when the symptom presents, or the bill arrives, or a loved one's name comes with fear attached, do not take the fear into your mind. Lay the entire picture in the invisible basket before you. Refuse its self-portrayal. Acknowledge silently, Father, thou art here. Thou art the life, law, and substance present. Then listen, not to make something happen, but to let what is true appear. In that beholding, without debate, the illusion loses its seeming place, and the fruits, peace first, harmony next, follow as naturally as light dissolves the darkness it never had to fight. Now let us be plain about this holy act, because it is an act, decisive and simple, dropping the problem. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Not explain it to the Lord, not decorate it with words, not beg him to notice it, cast it. How? First, name the appearance once and only once, so that your own mind knows what is being surrendered. Father, this fear about my child, or this notice of lack, or this aching knee, and then without embroidery, without story, place it wholly in the silence before you. Put it in the inner basket and take your hands off. That is the offering. Next, end the tinkering. Cease the inner mechanics, the affirming, the pleading, the bargaining, the visualizing, the rehearsing of outcomes. Lay down mental power as you would lay down a tool that has no use in this sanctuary. Your attention is not a lever to pry a solution into place. Your attention is your consent to presence. Turn it, yielded and simple, toward the invisible, not to make, but to behold. Not to move God, but to be moved by God. Then open the inner ear. Keep it just beyond the ordinary hearing, as if a breath is becoming a word. Let the mind's foam subside. You are not responsible for the waves' chatter. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Wait without agenda. If thoughts rise to take back the burden, do not argue. Silently set them down again. Get thee behind me and return to listening. You will not always feel a voice. You may feel only a softening, a weight lifted, a sense that the edges of the problem no longer slice. That is the assurance, the still small voice translated into peace. Seal the act. Do not reopen it with postludes of worry. Whisper within, not as formula, but as recognition. Thy presence is enough. Say it once, and let the words dissolve into the fact they name. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Seal it, and then rise from the chair as one who has been relieved of a package at the door. If the image returns in an hour, repeat the same simple handover. Do not lengthen it, do not strengthen it, do not make a rite of what is a release. You drop, you listen, you seal. Understand what has occurred. Self-management has ended. Divine operation has begun. The seed has been placed in the good ground of silence, and the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade peace, then the ear right order, then the full corn in the ear, outward harmony. Do not pluck at the soil to check the roots. Keep the contact, keep the ear open. Be still and know that I am God. And in that knowing, not by might, not by mental power, but by his Spirit, the thing that troubled you dissolves in its own nothingness, while the presence, having been given its rightful place, proves itself as law, as life, as sufficiency. Thy presence is enough. Now we fulfill the price, not a price paid in strain, but in consistency. Pray without ceasing, not by long hours, but by faithful minutes. Set your day as one sets small lamps along a path. Upon waking before the foot meets the floor, give 2 to 4 minutes to silence. Mid-morning, pause again. At noon, withdraw within. Late afternoon, before the second wind of activity would claim you, enter once more. At bedtime, close the day in hush. These are not ceremonies, these are contacts. 2 minutes, if that is all the heart can quietly bear. 4, if the peace deepens. 7 times a day do I praise thee, said the psalmist. Do likewise in spirit. Between these anchors, let there be the little obediences, the micro pauses, 12 to 20 of them as the day asks and as grace makes room. Before you place the call, 1 minute. Father, thou art here. Before the meal, not to bless food with words, but to recognize presence as life. Before you turn the key in the door, before you turn the ignition of the car, before you enter the meeting, before your hand reaches for the send button, 1 minute of listening without requests. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Acknowledge not with speech, but with a yielded ear, and you will find the path quietly adjusted underfoot. The method is ever the same. Enter the inner closet, close the door of thought, and acknowledge gently, simply, God is here. God is the life, mind, law of this moment. Make no request, offer no outline, to hold no problem in the hand. Listen, keep the inner ear open just beyond sound until a soft assurance dawns or a stillness settles. That is enough. Seal it. Thy presence is enough. Then return to the task as one carried. 15 such touches in a day is not excess. It is alignment. You are not adding religion to life. You are letting life be itself as you. To keep this ear unblocked, make room. Reduce the din. Cut the intake of noise. News that frets. Chatter that drains. The stream of images that stirs the surface. In my early work, I learned to cut newspapers, radios, and movies down 90% when I sought realization. In your day, add the endless scrolling. This is not disdain for the world. It is stewardship of the heart. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Guard the minutes of silence as you would a pearl case. Do not leave it open in a windy room. I have kept these minute appointments in train stations and waiting rooms, on city benches and in crowded kitchens, and I have watched supply meet me before the chase. Words arrive before the tongue strains. Peace precede the turning of a knob. It works silently, secretly, unseen, unheard, because the Christ performs the works. Do not be satisfied with anything less than contact. Do not lengthen beyond sincerity. Do not shorten below honesty. 2 to 4 minutes, morning, mid-morning, noon, late afternoon, and bedtime. A dozen to 20 micro pauses threaded through the ordinary, the same quiet method, a guarded ear. This is the practical price of realization. Pay it in minutes and find that the day redeemed pays you in peace. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Some of you have already felt the objection rise like a startled bird. If I stop working on myself, if I stop pushing and planning, will I not become careless? Will life not fall through my open hands? Hear me in the same hush. Grace is not laziness. Grace is intelligent trust. Take no thought, for your life is not an invitation to neglect. It is a command to shift the source of action from anxious taking thought to the Father's knowing. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added by law, by order, by the Christ acting as the life of you. Action is not abolished. Action is transfigured. We do, but not as anxious doers. We move, but not by personal propulsion. The Master did not retire to the mountain and leave the multitudes unfed. He withdrew to the mountain, made contact, and then he said, "Make the men sit down," and the bread appeared under obedient hands. Not imagination, but inspiration. Not frenzy, but order. Order my steps in thy word. When the inner word is heard, the next step is plain, sometimes small, sometimes bold, but always light, unforced, exact. Do not hide neglect under the robe of grace. If in the silence you are given to apologize, go and apologize. If you are given to make the call, make it. If you are given to put your books in order, put them in order. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only. But note the ground of your doing, not compulsion, not fear of consequences, not the pride of accomplishment, but obedience to the inner nudge that rises when the heart is quiet. That is responsibility transfigured. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Works remain, but they are Christ works, not ego works. Vocation does not vanish in realization. It clarifies. The teacher still teaches, yet from a center that blesses without strain. The parent still rises in the night, yet with a peace that steadies trembling hands. The merchant still keeps accounts, yet finds transactions become fair and timely. Peter and John, standing at the temple gate, did not merely contemplate. They said, "Such as I have give I thee." And they reached out and lifted the man. First the inner wealth, such as I have, then the outward touch. This is the sequence of grace: contact, then conduct. What of outcomes? They cease to be wrestled into being and begin to arise from alignment. Doors open of themselves because you are at the right door at the right hour. Words come when needed because they were given before the tongue moved. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Not maybe shall. One with God is a majority, and the majority does not push. It proceeds. Therefore, keep your appointments with the infinite invisible, and then be faithful to the task your hand finds, today's task, not tomorrow's terror. If nothing specific is given, tend the present duty in quietness. If a clear step is given, take it without haste or delay. This is not indolence. This is inspired obedience. Not by might, not by mental power, but by his Spirit. And the fruits will tell you the tale. Less sweat in the brow, more rightness in the result, fewer regrets, more gratitude, not a life shirked, but a life carried. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Let him then do as one already upheld. How shall you know that the hand has opened and the burden has been cast, that you have ceased working on yourself and consented to grace? By their fruits ye shall know them. Not fireworks, but quietness. Not a thrill that rises and falls with the weather, but the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, settling without cause, remaining without your guardianship. It comes unannounced, like dawn through a window you forgot to close. There is a soft joy unattached to outcome, not because a plan succeeded, but because presence is near. There is a steadying, as if an arm you cannot see has been set gently around your shoulders, and the old winds that used to tip you do not tip you now. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Rule, not visit. Govern, not merely comfort. When peace begins to govern, you are no longer the traffic cop of your days. Order appears because order is the nature of the one who has been given place. Guidance takes on a new tone. You do not grind at decisions. You receive steps. A simple impulse arises. Call now, wait, turn here, say nothing. And it is timely, exact, modest. Not calculation, but direction. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. You find that the next thing is already illumined when you arrive at it, and the next after that, when it is due, you are spared the tyranny of running ahead to light the whole road with your own matches. The mind, so fond of its maps and contingencies, yields to the still small voice, and to its surprise discovers that obedience lightens. It does not bind. Not by mental power, but by his Spirit. The ordinary is infused with rightness. Provision shifts from pursuit to appearance. Supply, help, and harmony arrive the way spring arrives, inevitably, quietly, in their season. A bill comes due, and without your scramble, the work or the adjustment meets it. A needed hand appears at the door, just as the box is too heavy to lift alone. An appointment shifts, and what would have been collision becomes smooth passage. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Not jackpot, not drama, rightness. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. You notice that strain drains away from transactions. Fairness enters the ledger. Timing grows sane. One with God is a majority, and the majority does not push, it proceeds. In relationships, the armor loosens. Defensiveness drops as naturally as a leaf falls when the sap has withdrawn. You answer without the old edge. The need to win thins. Silence at times proves wiser than the perfect speech. A soft answer turneth away wrath. You begin to see God where a face used to provoke you. The other becomes less other. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Apologies rise without humiliation. Forgiveness without effort. Boundaries, when given, inspire peace, not punishment. You bless in your heart before you enter the room, and the room softens to meet you, not always loudly, but enough that you cannot mistake the new climate. These are the evidences: an inward government of peace, a readiness of simple guidance, an unobtrusive rightness in provision, and love becoming natural. Do not chase them. Abide in the contact that gives them birth. Keep the ear open. Keep the minutes of acknowledgement. Let thy presence is enough be the seal upon every hour. Then watch how life, once managed at cost, is quietly ordered without your pushing. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And it shall, because the Father within you felt, welcomed, obeyed, doeth the works. Beloved, you are not inventing a private way. You are stepping into a procession that has moved through the ages, and its banner bears a single word: yield. Scripture sings it. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Not by handling, not by arguing, not by improving, but by dwelling by a consent of the heart to abide. And the Master's own witness makes the method plain. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Not I pushing outcomes, but indwelling presence, fulfilling its own order as my life. Trace the thread. At the sea, before waters parted, the word came first: stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. In the cave, before direction was given, Elijah discovered that the voice was not in wind or fire, but in a still small voice. The holy consent of Mary, be it unto me according to thy word, preceded the form of Christ among us. Paul's boast was not of cleverness, but of an exchanged life. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Everywhere the sequence is one and the same. Stillness, surrender, then the work of God revealed. One with God is a majority, and the majority does not strive, it abides and reveals. And if you step beyond one vocabulary of faith, the witness remains. The Tao calls it wu-wei non-forcing, through which nothing is left undone. The Buddha sat until grasping fell away, and awakening was the fruit, not the wage of effort. Shankara taught that when mind grows quiet, the self shines by itself. It needs no polishing. The Sufi listens in the heart's chamber and finds the dance was already turning. Friends, change the names if you must, but not the law. Surrender precedes illumination. Inner yielding precedes outer grace. Look also to the ordinary, for the infinite invisible is no respecter of platforms. A nurse pauses 1 minute outside a room. Father, thou art here, and the vein that hid presents itself like a gift. A shopkeeper, before opening the ledger, listens until a small correction is given. An error is spared. A fairness appears. A parent, lifting a hand to scold, lowers it after a breath in the closet of the heart, and a sentence, soft and exact, does the work discipline could not. A driver caught in the snarl of evening turns off the news, listens, takes the side street, and arrives without the old tempest within. I have watched these minutes of quiet precede works that no amount of planning could secure small rightnesses, daily mercies, until a life, like a field, shows the pattern of rain. Now let this be your testimony. Begin to notice quietly, secretly, faithfully, the little places where you stopped working on yourself and listened instead, and how the result bore the scent of order. Keep a small card in your pocket, a page by your bed, and mark the instances. The word withheld that saved a friendship, the impulse to wait that averted waste, the nudge to give that uncorked supply. Do not trumpet them, treasure them. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Soon you will not merely agree with Scripture and saints, you will know, as fact lived, that when you dwell in the secret place and let the Father within do the works, grace and not your striving performs all things for you. Beloved, let us take the next simple step together. Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Gathered not to parade needs, not to stack problems on the table, not to compare journeys, but to touch the presence, to acknowledge without speech, if possible, that God is here. Come without problems, leave them like shoes at the door of the heart. We meet for one thing only, to make our contact with the infinite invisible, to stand before the holy in shared silence until the hush is not only felt within but becomes tangible among us. Unity of purpose is the secret. They were all with one accord in one place, and in that accord the atmosphere ripened for grace. Not to fix but to behold, not to describe darkness but to consent to light. I have watched a room of 12 sit quietly without a single testimony, without a single request, and the silence deepen in such a way that private problems never named began to lose their sting before anyone rose from the chair. Why? Because one mind is all, and when we agree to lay down our private might and our mental power, even for a few minutes, by my Spirit, saith the Lord, becomes operative as the only atmosphere of the meeting. The form is modest and strong. Choose 10 to 15 minutes. Arrive a few minutes early so that the clock does not rush the heart. Sit, close the door of thought. If a word is needed to steady the mind at the outset, let it be simple and collective. Father, thou art here. Then no more words. No hymns are necessary, no outlines are given, no one speaks, no one gathers testimonies, no one explains, we listen. We keep the inner ear open just beyond sound and wait not for a sign, not for an answer, but for the assurance, the stillness that says, without voice, I am. When it comes light as a feather, strong as a root, seal it in the heart, thy presence is enough. Rise quietly and depart as you came, with the fragrance, not the noise, of God on you. If someone came carrying a fear, do not lay hands upon it with words. Lay it in the invisible basket, and together behold God. Do not underestimate what occurs when we assemble to listen rather than fix. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity as the dew of Hermon. I have seen after such meetings, homes breathe easier, offices find their rhythm, neighborhoods soften. A tense conversation scheduled for the afternoon becomes straightforward. A child's fever breaks in the night without fanfare. A decision that had entangled a team clears in a single email of unexpected clarity. No one can claim credit, for thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. One with God is a majority. Now imagine a room consenting to that. One as the only mind present. It is not arithmetic, it is revelation. The coal burns hotter in the heap than alone, and yet the fire is of one nature. Set it as a gentle rule among you, a weekly circle, 10 to 15 minutes of hush, nothing more. Guard the door, come without problems. If the mind insists, drop them into the basket of silence before you sit. This is not therapy, this is worship in spirit and in truth. Keep it clean of counsel and free of display. Let the meeting be a place where the shared aim is singular, to realize, even for a breath, conscious oneness with God. Then carry that realized hush back to kitchen and shop and meeting room and watch the ripple of ease extend, not because you pushed, but because grace, welcomed, became the quiet law among you. Beloved, let us make this simple and holy. For 30 days, set your rule of listening and let it be non-negotiable. Upon waking, mid-morning, noon, late afternoon, and at bedtime, 2 to 4 minutes each, no requests, no outlines, only acknowledgement and the open ear. Between these anchors, let 12 to 20 micropauses thread the day before the call, before the door, before the word, before the send. This is not to add work to your life, but to remove the worker, that grace may work. Pray without ceasing does not mean endless speech. It means frequent consent, not by might, not by mental power, but by His Spirit. Make your contact with the infinite invisible and seal it within. Thy presence is enough. Wardit. The kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchantman seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Sell what? The gossip of the mind, the itch to report, the craving to be seen as spiritual. Cast not your pearls before the marketplace of opinion. Keep your realizations private. Cover them as you would a flame in the wind. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Let the Father do the revealing, you do the revering. Speak little of the hush that visits you. Name it inwardly, thank it inwardly, and let it deepen. Talking about God will not produce the fruits of God. Silence before God will. Set also a quiet review. Each seventh day, choose 15 minutes to look back in the light, not to boast, not to measure achievement, but to notice the fruits that have no human maker, the peace that settled without cause, the guidance that arrived without strain, the provision that appeared without chase. Write 1 or 2 instances in a private page. Keep it in the inner pocket of your life. By their fruits ye shall know them. Know and give thanks. Then close the book and return to secrecy. You are not collecting trophies. You are noticing rain. Keep the boundaries clear. Reduce the noise that corrodes the ear, news that frets, voices that inflame, the scroll that stirs unrest. Decline debate about your practice. Decline even your own mind's debate. Hold to your 30-day rule with the gentleness of obedience and the firmness of love. If you stumble, begin again at once. If you forget an hour, redeem the next minute. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Keep the heart, and the issues will show themselves ordered without your pushing. Now go in quiet confidence. One with God is a majority. Rest in that. Walk in that. Work in that. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold your peace. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Let him live you. Let him act as your wisdom, your supply, your word in season. For 30 days, keep the appointments and the micropauses. Guard the pearl. Review the fruits without trumpet, and let grace prove itself as law. Bless you. The Father within you, nearer than hands and feet, closer than breathing, doeth the work. Make your contact, seal it, and proceed in peace.